Requested the prayer, please stand. Let us pray. Dear God, we embrace these characteristics: equality, respect, compassion, and kindness as we work hard to understand each other. Allow our thoughts and minds to focus always on what is good for all children in Greenville County and its employees. We all share the same basic needs and emotions. Let us put aside our differences and come together as one in peace, understanding, and tolerance, especially during these uncertain times. We ask that you give us your blessings. Amen. Mr. Stanley, would you be so kind in leading us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. First, I'd like to thank you for the review of flowers. I have Oscar the Grouch facing me with his mask, so we're practicing social distancing. Can you please tell us what kind of flowers these are?
It is a white hydrangea, and it has a green Oscar the Grouch flower in the center of it, with his cute little eyes looking at you, and his little mask to make sure that he is CDC, following CDC guidelines.
Well, I am very appreciative. I know all of the board members here tonight, everyone appreciate you always thinking of us every board meeting. And I'd like to thank Mr. Billy Bush for delivering and making sure that we have a brightness of the room. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar. Motion to approve. Second. All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. I did want to mention that we have those who sent in emails, and we will have someone from the superintendent will designate a member of the staff to respond to each speaker in an appropriate and timely manner, just as we would if they were here speaking for 3 minutes. Thank you so much. Dr. Royster, if you would be so kind, 3.01, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn, as well. I would hope that this announcement will be greeted with great relief, appreciation. I'll talk so much today about the budget and about the potential schedule for next year. And we will opt out of having the superintendent's report. You've heard quite enough information from me over the course of today.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. That was a pleasant surprise and one we will accept. 4.01, Advancing Instructional Equity for Secondary Bus Drivers. Dr. Royster.
As well, just to briefly summarize, because it has been a while since we have addressed this issue. We resent you all the information that we presented, and I believe most of it is very effectively captured in the 2-page executive summary. I won't go over that line by line. I will simply spend just a few moments and review the situation. A number of years ago, we conducted a full study of all the bus routes in Greenville County. Brought the State Department of Education's transportation personnel in to do that. It took them, as I recall, close to 2 years to complete that process. At the conclusion of that process, they basically said to us, recommended to us, that absent changing the amount of time between elementary routes and secondary routes, absent doing that, we could not fix our late bus problem. They recommended a 15 to 20 minute window The administration brought forward to the board a recommendation to change by 15 minutes the arrival of middle and high school, moving it 15 minutes later, making their day end 15 minutes later. Same length of time, day, but starting 15 minutes later. That solved our problem from the period of time from that adjustment. I think we have the date in here somewhere, but around 2011, 2012, up to the last couple of years, that's worked fine if we were full staff. We reached a point where even fully staffed is insufficient time. Traffic congestion in Greenville has created a situation where the amount of time we have between running the first tier, which is elementary, and running the second tier is not sufficient to ensure that our buses arrive on time. So we undertook more than a year ago a pilot program. And some may have confused the intent of that pilot, and I apologize if somehow our communication was not clear on that. The intent of the pilot was to make sure that in our most egregious circumstances, by moving arrival of elementary bus students 15 minutes earlier, we could ensure that routes at the secondary level ran on time. So we did that for all of 1 year and this year up until we moved to an e-learning staff. What that pilot told us was 15 minutes is sufficient for now and the near future. I would estimate perhaps as long as the 15 minutes that we instituted several years ago was sufficient to resolve that problem. The crux of the problem is on our best days, the periods of time we study, on our best days, 1,800 middle and high school students are late to school as defined by not arriving 15 minutes before their first class. On our worst days in the study period is 2,300 students. The only thing that fixes that is to increase the window in time between the two tiers, first tier and second tier. Our recommendation in order to do that is to move that group that we have not moved previously. That is the elementary group, starting at 15 minutes earlier and ending their day 15 minutes earlier. Well, creating an additional 15-minute window between tier 1 the elementary routes, tier 2 secondary routes. There's a volume of information in here. There are all kinds of statistics, all kinds of numbers, and who that affects. At this point, there are late buses to every school, secondary level, directly related to having insufficient time. Not the same ones on a daily basis, a focused group on a daily basis. Part of that is due to driver shortage, but if every bus were fully staffed, the buses that we're now running that are most late, most often would continue to be late. The only thing that fixes that is increasing the window of time. There are two ways to do that. Move secondary another 15 minutes later in the day. Or starting elementary 15 minutes early. Whatever order you do that in, at some point in the future, this issue will have to be revisited as Greenville continues to grow. If the traffic infrastructure is not increasing to meet that growth. If that's down, no pun intended, the road somewhere. At that point, then the recommendation would look different. Like at that point, we might believe that the thing to do would be to move 15 minutes later to second. Concern with secondary, you heard it very well articulated by some principals that came up to spoke in the hall. Number of students involved in athletics, number of students involved in maintenance. The number of students for whom an after-school job is not just for spending money or for the experience of having a job, it helps support their family. For those reasons, we believe at this point the adjustment is our recommendation. The adjustment be made on the elementary side. Is that an inconvenience? It certainly is. Is an inconvenience at any point to move anyone's schedule any amount of time. We believe that this is the minimal amount that solves the problem for the near term, several years out, and that creates the least inconvenience because it is, we believe, the minimum time necessary to meet the need. That is our recommendation. We'll certainly answer any specific questions that you might have about or attempt to bring clarity around any part of that issue that is not clear. Mr. James is in the room, and Mr. Davey, he mentioned that I don't have, but they certainly are much more familiar with all the details of the studies, the routes, and the problem, and they're certainly available to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Anyone? Okay, quick clarifying question. Actually, it's your mic on 1,800 on the past day on late, 2,300 on the worst day. Did you say as measured by 15, not there 15 minutes before the bell rings?
It is measured by, we did all this through geofencing. When you cross the line to come on the property, your clock is being there. So as soon as that bus enters the driveway, it enters within range inside that geofence, the clock starts then, and it's anything that's 15 minutes, we consider it to be late because of the process students have to go through, check in, get their breakfast, go to their locker if they need to do so, and get to their first class. It ensures that it's done in a consistent manner.
Is there anything like the equivalent of homeroom stuff?
There are still schools that use home rooms. I don't know that most of them have that first thing in the morning. That would be a question that one of the assistant superintendents, if you're asking about the high school or middle school level, I would need to get someone to go and retrieve Dr. McDonald and Mr. Reimer to answer that question. But they should be listening. I don't know if they're listening that close. And when we say best days and worst days, that involved a series of days. How many days in total were studied, Mr. James or Mr. David? 2 months. So 2 months, and on our best day, there were 1,800, and on our worst day or days, 2,300. So it's a 2-month period of time. So that's the two extremes within the 2 months, the minimum of 1,800, the maximum of 2,300.
Okay.
Is that a better, more clear?
Yeah, so that does not mean that there are always at least 18. But there are always at least 1,800 students late.
Yes, ma'am, that's exactly what it means.
So it's not the extreme. You're saying
That's the low end.
just on that, could it have been on that, on one day out of the 20, or out of 2 months, or are you saying?
Well, on at least one day out of the 2 months, on the best day out of 2 months, it was 1,800 on the best day.
I guess, would it help to know the average? I mean, I'm trying to figure out if
You all have the average.
if you saw this on a graph and these are the extremes, what typically happens?
2,300 was a high extreme, but it was an outlier, but it was closer to around 1,900, almost 2,000 on average, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since we've looked at that, but I do know that the 2,300 was an extreme, but also the 1,800 was the very best days, and were very few in number also. The average is around between 1,900 and 2,000.
Dr. McDonald, Mr. Reimer, the question was, how many schools have a homeroom period the very first thing in the morning? You all know?
So most middle schools do not have a homeroom period per se in terms of having a time that's dedicated for checking roll and things like that. Nearly every school starts off with academics first thing in the morning. Some of them may have a few minutes where they are checking attendance or things like that. But in general, most of them are starting academics first thing.
Okay, Dr. McDonald, you are answering that. You said they are starting with academics first thing in the morning, but is there a period of time, sometime during the day for middle schoolers, when they gather in a homeroom where there's sort of practical details of the day taking place?
So most of the middle schools do have a time they call flex time. So this is the time where they may do remediation, extra learning opportunities. But in terms of just general getting things done and taking care of general record keeping and things like that, that's usually built into the class times. So most of that would be any additional time they have outside of those 4 academic areas would be used to support remediation or other opportunities that they're trying to help the kids with.
And scheduling wise, Dr. Wilson, what would it look like if we asked that time to be offered first thing in the morning?
I think what it would look like is you're setting aside some period of time to do things that are non-instructional in nature, and would exceed the amount of time it takes to do this. That's my opinion.
The flex time though is meant to be instructional in nature for the students, but more autonomous in what they're doing.
You're talking about the flex time at the high school and middle school level? I think they truly have flex time in the middle school.
Right. So in the middle school, that's going to be much more teacher directed. So it looks more like remediation, where I may take a group of kids and do some things with them. You may take a different group of kids and do things with them. Today we may spend time working on math. Tomorrow we may work on language arts. It's much more structured. So if you're asking if kids are missing an opportunity, if they miss that 15 minutes, then the answer would be yes. They're missing the opportunity to engage in either remediation opportunities, enrichment opportunities, or in some cases, extra learning opportunities that the school has built into that time.
I think it's probably also important to note that I believe, if I recall correctly, Mr. McCoy, that at all 3 levels, our minimum instructional day is the minimum instructional day required by the state.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Just asking the same question about whether or not there is a time in the morning where students gather for homeroom or other purposes in high school.
First of all, I apologize for my wardrobe today. I just left off my box of court, get ready for graduation. To answer your question, high schools start instruction at 8:45. There's they'll run advisory. Some schools run advisory once every couple of weeks, but that will be chunked out of each class period throughout the day. Sometimes that is in the morning, first thing, and sometimes in the middle of the day. But there is no, for lack of a better word, homeroom at the high school. 8:45, algebra 1, just start.
So if you, given that we do have flex time now at most high schools.
Not built into the schedule. There is no period at most high schools as of today where there's a 30 or 45-minute window of time they go get that assistance. Now,
Aren't we trying to move toward that, like the power hour on 30 minutes?
and some of that, it does take place still at our schools. That's built around the lunches when you have a little bit more flexibility in the time. But none are doing that flex time first thing.
What if you, like, what would it look like?
Well,
Build it so that it was first thing, if it meant that students would be able to get to school on time.
I would make the point that those are the very students that we would need to have that time for remediation. So if we move that time to 8:45 and they're on a bus and they're not able to get it, that in many cases are very kids that we need to have that support for. So if we're going to build that into the day under the current, I think Dr. Worship was going to do the timing with you. We would, under the current bus mapping times and how students arriving, we would not do that first thing in the morning because we would want all of our students to be able to have that remediation, just like we like to have all of the students in their algebra 1 class if that's their first period class. So under the current structure, we would push that to the day so that we could have it for all students. Is that great to answer your question?
But if it was in the morning, you're saying the problem would be that those who were late would miss it. And if it's later, then we're still missing it. But
Unless we can get our students, 100% of our students at school at 8:45, which would solve really all of those.
okay, that's fine. I was hoping that I wasn't thinking of it so much as a flex period being just for remediation. I was thinking of it being more student directed on extra times they needed, but not.
The way most schools have been able to have that sort of time, is they take advantage of the fact they have time during the center of the day, radiating off their lunch schedule. That's how they've been able to do it. Some of the schools actually had to cease doing it because they weren't meeting the minimum number of minutes or hours in the required school day. And not for an individual student, but for their school as a whole. That's what ended it at Travelers Rest. I don't know if they're doing some version of it there now, but 2 or 3 locations in the district, we received an accreditation warning because their school day was insufficiently long. High school day has to be 6.5 hours of instruction, not including lunch. You can include the change of class, but not lunch or homeroom or anything else like that. The only thing you can count toward the instructional minutes for the full length of the school day are the actual hours of class, minutes of class, plus the class change time.
Would that, like we talked about scheduling earlier, would that change depending on how we decide to implement e-learning this coming year?
Well, everything to do with e-learning presupposes the time schedule we have in place. It doesn't really change the time of day, except 5B, which presumes to let school out early. Not come in late, but let school out early. Hour and a half of elementary, an hour in middle and high school.
Is there anything within what you just said that is pertinent to improving this situation? You know, maybe instead of they get out an hour and a half early, they start later. Or, I mean, have you looked at any of the configurations?
If you let people out early, we have some ability to run after school programs, and there are other after school programs available. A little bit more difficult to come in late. Somebody has to watch you for a longer period of time. I can assure you, if there was a way to have done this, about bringing it in here this way, we would have done it. Because obviously it creates an inconvenience, and there is not unanimous support for doing it. We've been through all these scenarios, and at the end of the day, there's 2 ways to fix it. Move middle and high school 15 minutes later. Start elementary 15 minutes early. Not adding any time to their day, simply shifting. We believe, because we've already shifted high school and middle school 1 time later, and because of compelling reasons for after school activities, then at this point, the adjustment that ought to be made is to move the elementary 15 minutes earlier. This whole problem can only be solved by having more time between tier 1, tier 2, bus routes. There isn't another way to solve it and meet the other requirements you have to meet without. There's no way to fix it without creating an inconvenience on some group or groups of people. But we cannot, I cannot, the administration cannot in good conscience allow a situation with 1,800, 2,200, 2,300 students a day to continue without us bringing forward to you a recommendation for the manner in which we believe is best to fix it. And I'm pretty sure you all would agree that we would not be doing our job if we did not. We try to be very deliberate in it and spend time in making sure, because it is an inconvenience for us, making sure that 15 minutes fixes the problem.
Yeah, it's amazing thinking back to 2 months and 2 weeks ago, had an 8-hour discussion on this issue. And there's so much about our community has changed since then that it seems like it was years ago. We're talking today about kids not coming to school at all in the fall, or coming to school 1 or 2 days a week at all, or at best, maybe coming to school 5 days a week, but leaving, not working. There's just so much that's changed since we started looking at this stuff. And I guess the thing I don't fully understand is, if this action had happened in March, it makes sense that we would have moved forward with it. But as I look at all the stuff that we talked about just a couple hours ago, there's so much we didn't know in March that now we're talking about in the fall. So I didn't see any of the scenarios up there this afternoon. Talked about full buses or full routes. We even talked about whether we have to do kind of a divided route to accommodate these new challenges we have for the number of kids we can fit on a bus. But I guess the first question I would have is, I know that you guys did an incredible amount of work running every possible scenario in March. So 15 minutes earlier, the scenarios A, B, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5A, and 5B. Can we say confidently that we can get all those kids to school on time 15 minutes earlier with all of those scenarios?
Doesn't have anything to do with 1 or 2. But what I can tell you with 4 or 5 or 5, I'll let everybody do. Don't change that window of time, they won't get there on time. Now with 1 and 2, we cannot answer that with certainty until they have structured those routes. So there's no way to answer that, but I can 4, 5, and 5D require the same routing that we currently have in the 5-day schedule. So whether we go 4 days or 5 days or 5 days with this option to leave early, it does not fix those students consistently arriving late to school. This is the only thing that fixes it. It goes back to exactly what the State Department told us in 2008, 9, 10. I think it was 8 and 9. They did the study. You need to change the times by 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes to change them. How much has traffic congestion increased since we made that change? We're chasing traffic congestion. And this is the solution that provides us relief for what we believe an appropriate period of time until either something is done with the infrastructure or growth slows or some future body has to make a decision to move high school and middle school another 15 minutes southern direction. We believe it is the best solution that presents itself at this moment. That's why we spend so much time looking at it and making certain that we fully vetted it to ensure that it can work. And with 100% driver, 100% driver fill, we're absolutely on time by moving to 15 minutes. Absent unforeseen circumstances. Without 100% driver fill, we are down in single digits for late arrival buses, even with a very reduced driver force. So it works both scenarios, greatly improving the conditions for those students who are being habitually late through no fault of their own.
So I don't disagree. I think that we need to run buses earlier, get the kids to school sooner, so the buses can get out and run. Second route. What I struggle with is this idea that because we need to run buses earlier, that 24,000 car riders also. And I understand the scenario that was presented when we did the presentation about the fiscal impact of opening 15 minutes earlier, but not leaving 15 minutes earlier. And I understand how that would be a real challenge. However, as I talk to principals one-on-one, we've had a lot of time to do that because they haven't been tied up in their schools as much as they were. One of the things that I hear repeatedly from them is, we can make this work at our school. We can open the building 15 minutes earlier if we're directed to. We can accommodate bus riders 15 minutes earlier if we're directed to. We don't need extra money to accommodate that need. We can do trade out for not having to have late leave during the week. We can do trade outs for work they do on the site. They were expected to do on future work days. There's plenty of opportunities already where we exchange 1 minute of time in one place for a minute of time work in another place. And if all we're doing is just needing to accommodate bus riders, then we can do that without opening the building for everyone by choosing the start. And I believe we can do it without any additional costs, because it would be a trade-out. I also believe that one thing we did not talk about today, 5 o'clock, is the need for us to really space out student arrivals and student departures. Because otherwise we're going to have some social distancing challenges in the place where kids bottleneck. So having the buildings open 15 minutes earlier allows for one group of students to arrive 15 minutes before other groups of students arrive, which would make it easier for us to accommodate large bottlenecks of kids. The group that I am most concerned about, however, are the staff who work in our elementary schools. I know that we've heard repeated testimony. I think 70% of the testimony that we received online was from teachers expressed concerns about child care issues, about middle school drop-off issues, making these teachers, elementary schools, come to work 15 minutes earlier is going to put an incredible burden on their families. What's changed for our district in the past 60 days is that what we thought was a problem in March is a substantial problem now. Because 50% of child care providers in Greenville County have closed since the last time we met. So all of these numbers that we ran, about 158 providers, 74% today be open, they're not in business. And of the 50% of childcare providers who closed, in the survey that we at First Step and New for Shops tested 2 weeks ago, a third of them said, we don't intend to reopen. So we have real childcare challenges in this county. We have teachers who have told you in March it was a problem then. And that problem is substantially more difficult now. Then we have the after school problem of moving school dismissal for elementary school kids up 15 minutes earlier is going to cause substantial increases in childcare costs. When I talked to the YMCA of Greenville, when I talked with the other larger after-school providers, every one of them said, if we have to add 15 minutes to every day to pick up these kids, it will cost more than currently. So during a time when we're talking about freezing teacher pay, we're talking about not giving them the salary increase that the General Assembly promised them and took away. We're talking about increasing their class sizes. We're now going to tell them OPS, and we're going to make them come in 15 minutes earlier against your will. And you need to find childcare that doesn't exist. And when you find after school care, it's going to be $5 to $10 more a week. And I feel like it's just too much. And I just have real reservations about all these things.
Ms. Goodwin, thank you. Dr. Royster, was there a cost associated with if we opened the elementary schools 15 minutes early at 7 o'clock to accept the buses and not move the start time?
Yes, ma'am. If we were to do what we did in the pilot schools, the cost of that was I believe $1.8 million to expand.
If we ran just like we did those pilots, if we just calculated on just that 15-minute coverage, we estimated that to be about $670,000.
But paying for supervision versus paying somebody to teach.
But that's basically for all of the schools, correct?
Yes, ma'am. This is an issue at all of the schools. It's just to a greater degree in some than others. And it can change from school to school. For example, the first year we were looking at this, one of the worst schools in the district for on-time arrival was Blue Ridge High School. It's now one of the best schools for on-time arrival. So that can change. We put the worst, the most egregious ones in the pile. Now, the east side, south side, and Wade Hampton, certain routes coming in. But it is a problem throughout. There's not enough time. There's not enough time between tier 1 and tier 2. And I have a concern too. I understand and hear Mr. Lewis's concerns. I have a concern with asking teachers to do another 15 minutes of supervision without compensation, on top of however much supervision duty they have now. That's a little lesser concern than the idea that we would have every bus driver at the elementary level come to school 15 minutes before all other students and add 15 more minutes to the day for our students who already have the longest day. They will get no benefit from that other than being supervised while they're sitting there. When we just bring the bus students in 15 minutes. That's at 7 o'clock. School doesn't start here. That's the other 15 minutes. So that's a concern. That's part of what drove the recommendation we brought forward.
I know the only problem that I'm having is that the pilot, that the people that did the pilot, they praised it and everything. They were
recommendation is completely different from the pilot that you did.
I think therein lies the confusion. The pilot was to ensure that 15 minutes would fix our worst situation. And because we didn't want those bus students just sitting there another 15 minutes, we brought a teacher in for them to work with those students. Without regard to what they might have needed, to bring them in to work with those students, because we did not want to bring forward a recommendation that we weren't absolutely certain to do all that we could do to fix our problem with that window of time.
Okay, so since the pilot did work, but you're saying for us to bring the start times back to 7:45, even though that wasn't in the pilot. I'm trying to understand it because the pilot was completely different from you asking us to bring the start time back to 7:45 because they didn't do that in the pilot.
Well, actually they did. They dropped those students 15 minutes early.
But they didn't start school at 7:45. They still started school at 8 o'clock, correct?
That is right. But they started school for those students when they got there because we supplied a teacher using salaries saved from not having 100% fill rate on the bus route.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand it because
Yes, ma'am.
the pilot was completely different from what you're asking us to.
Well,
To
the
bring
purpose
the
of the
time
pilot, wasn't to remediate students. The purpose of the pilot wasn't to add 15 minutes to their school day. The purpose of the pilot was to be absolutely certain that 15 minutes, because obviously this is a controversial change, to make sure that 15 minutes was sufficient. And we didn't want them just sitting there for another 15 minutes. They're already sitting there for 45. So sitting there a full hour and not getting any benefit from it. That's why we set it up.
But a lot of schools have early enrichment anyway, correct? A lot of the elementary schools do.
Some schools do that, yes, ma'am.
I'm still trying to understand it because the pilot, if you're saying that the pilot worked, why are we not using that as,
Because we don't have $1.8 million to replicate the pilot across the district in every elementary school. And even if we did, I believe you have to also think about it this way. How many elementary bus riders do we have in the world? Approximately.
15,000.
All right, so we would be bringing 15,000 elementary students to school 15 minutes early, 15 minutes on top of the 45 they're already there. So they would arrive 1 hour, many of them, 1 hour before school starts. All of those students don't need remediation.
and all of the schools aren't habitual on the buses being late. Why is it that?
They're not
we can't just-
habitual, but it is a problem at every location in the district.
Okay, when I looked at the percentages and some of them were in the single digits on
Yes, ma'am.
buses being late, why is it that we can't, let the administration at those schools that are affected do the 15 minutes early, letting, the kids in the school at 7 o'clock and you have a couple of staff that's taking care of them in the morning, but it's only those schools that are really affected, not the other schools that are not.
But they're,
The 7:45.
to a degree, they're all affected, and it can change from week to week. You can't have a schedule where you got start time this week at one time, and a different start time on another week at another time. That's what makes that, on surface, that sounds like, well, that would be a good thing to do, so I'm handling the individual. But we can't run the transportation system for the whole district that way. We don't have, as you all know, we don't have clear feeder patterns. We'll never have clear feeder patterns because we don't have the combination of building capacities that allow us.
That's all I have. Okay. Mr. Meek?
Thank you. I want to talk about the information that you furnished Mr. Savory to the board, unless he's going to talk about that. Okay, I'll let her out. If I was understanding his question, he asked, for late bus arrivals on middle and high schools. And this chart that you gave us is only showing high school. Is there a reason we're not showing middle schools in there? Miss Anson.
I don't think I have it.
It was in an email. The chart does have a few middle schools, the middle schools that were chronically late, like Lakeview is on that chart.
I think the way that Mr. Gaines put that together, and I'll let him speak for himself, we asked him to look at where were the most impacted areas, and the most impacted areas are more so the high schools and middle schools. That's not an exhaustive list, that's just kind of it took them 3 or 4 hours one morning to do that.
That's January and February.
Those most impacted most often.
Okay, well, I noticed on this list that I had, after Berea High School, you got Hunts Ridge Road and Lakeside Drive, Trailer Park. Then you have Laurel Oak Apartments, Lakeside Apartments, Overlook Apartments. Carolina High School, you have Grove Station Apartments, Fairmeadow Townhouses. Greenville High, you got Cindy Apartments, Vincent Terrace Mobile Home Park, Augusta Heights Apartments. I don't know if you see a correlation here with that apartments. And, you know, these are, I think, as Mr. Robert said, these are the students that we need to get to school at their own time. They're not the ones that we need to leave behind because they may not be getting out of these apartments, townhouses, trailer parks, whatever. They are not usually the students where we get valedictorians from. And so we have a real hard problem following the logic that it's okay for the bus riders to get there early and stay at the same time as everyone else does. And these are probably the most needed children that this district has. And so I'm just not seeing a way that I can support anything except the notion that it's coming from community home. And I just want to talk about this list. As she said, it's not exhaustive. But it shows me all over the district where you have these high schools that a lot of the students are from the most neediest areas, or what I think is the neediest areas. And so I would hope that when this motion gets on the floor that, you know, my fellow board members can support it. Thank you.
Ms. Linda Morrison, there. Yes, Dr. Lewis. What is the projected cost again associated with opening the school 15 years earlier? Did you have a cost on that?
If you alter the school day, the cost is zero. To do what we did in those pilots, the estimated cost to replicate that is $1.8 million.
And the downside to, that would be me leaving the school being the same, but adding extra programs on the front end, that would be $1.8 million.
Mr. Chairman, that's a pretty generic program. It's not an individualized program. It's enhancing everyone's activities. That's part of what led me to say, talk about bringing 15,000 people in. We don't all need to be engaged. There might be perhaps a little higher number of them to do, because there is, unfortunately, a correlation between socioeconomic status and the need for that. And if I remember correctly, our numbers, 69% of our bus riders are free to reduce lunch, whereas the population in general in the district it's about 50%.
Do we have a bus traffic problem on either end?
Well, we have, yes, we have a problem in the afternoon too, which helps to fix that problem, but that problem doesn't affect them academically, it affects what time they get home. And it would mean less time that they would have to be supervised at middle and high school, but there's not an academic negative impact.
Okay, and then the personal impact, teachers are saying that they will incur additional costs for daycare before school and after school. That's personal with teachers. That's what they're.
Yes, ma'am, if that's their concern, and as Mr. Lewis mentioned, we gathered a significant amount of information about that. That environment has changed dramatically in the last several weeks. And we don't, no one knows what that environment is going to look like. Now, the issue of dropping their child in middle school earlier, that's something in our control. I think we can adequately address that. And as we had to do when we made this time adjustment before, there had to be some adjustments made to accommodate some, I won't say individual needs, because they were a little more general than just individual.
Okay, and did I also hear you say that on a case-by-case basis that you would work with teachers who have problems with the before and after school care with the individual?
I think the expectation would be the principal, if not the expectation, the principals do that now. I think an example you look at is if I had trouble dropping my child off early in the morning, I might come to you as the principal and say, can I have all the afternoon bus duty? In other words, double that up for me and don't give me in the morning because I have this issue in the morning. Or conversely, I have an elderly parent. I need to get home in the afternoon. 10,000 some odd that ride into the secondary level.
I actually need to make a correction. It's 8,000 in the morning. I got middle, secondary, and elementary.
I'm sorry. So it's 8,000 and then 15,000 secondary.
It's 15,000 in the afternoon. 11,586 in the morning.
Okay. That is what we believe is our best recommendation. You all will have to, as I'm sure you always do, weigh that and apply your judgment to it and do what you believe is in the best interest of the district.
Do you have data that you could, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, in that window, was it just capturing the time that it was 15 minutes, or did you guys actually look at 5, 10, and 15 minutes within that 8:45?
How many cross the geo fence inside of 15 minutes? Yes.
But you also, did you capture, where you could say, okay, they were here 10 minutes early?
To capture the arrival of every bus during those study periods. Yes.
So if you had that.
We did. It was in the presentation, but
It's about, I know I'll look for the exact numbers, it's about half of the lane of the 1,800, about half of them were between 5 and 10 minutes late, the other half was 10 to 15.
So half is
I'll find the exact.
half got there, not so 900 to 1150 got there between 5 and 10 minutes before, and the other half from 10 to 15 minutes before. It's in that, I can look it up real quick. It's the white presentation. Okay.
Ms. Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Venezuela. So, first of all, I want to say that, Mr. James, I really appreciate all the work that you did. You know, I was the one that was complaining about buses notes and the data and the detail and the time y'all put into this is incredible. I'm still struggling with the fact that everything has changed. And, you know, we now have a 12% unemployment rate in the state, and we've lost $272,000. And I think earlier today we talked about the fact that, you know, a lot of people out of work and people are really grateful to the district for keeping everybody employed, keeping their benefits in place, and not furloughing anybody. I say that by way of you know, bus driver might be looking pretty good for me.
Yeah.
So not only do we not know, you know, if we're gonna have our assumptions, all of our assumptions that underlie, through nobody's fault, all of our underlying assumptions have been undermined by those fires, and we just don't know. That's the one thing that I just come back to a million times in the last 12 hours is that we just don't know. We don't know who's gonna be on the bus. We don't know what parents are gonna be comfortable putting their kid on the bus. We don't know how many parents are gonna feel comfortable putting their kid in the building. And we don't know how many people are going to want to drive a bus. We don't even know what our content delivery model is going to be. And so to make this universal decision to shift the start time based on assumptions that through nobody's fault had necessarily been undermined, I just have a very hard time. And again, it's no one's fault, but until we know how many days a week kids are going to be in a classroom, I have a hard time shifting start time at a time when we're asking our teachers, asking so much of our teachers. You know, we're asking them to shift potentially to a completely learning environment. We're asking them to, you know, accept the salary freeze. We're asking them to come in early. And all of this in a time where 6 months ago, our highest priority was the teacher shortage. I'm having trouble getting all the moving parts to work at this time without some of these variables being decided. It's not to say that I might not ultimately decide that moving the start time is the best thing to do. I'm fully in agreement with Mr. Mason. We can afford to have our highest need students come to school late anywhere in the district. And that is going to be an increasing priority as we have to face this digital divide where I've seen kids just absolutely refuse to pick up a Chromebook, and that's going to get worse. So I'm 100% agreeing with the administration that the problem needs to be solved. I don't know that as of this day, May 26th, that I can say that shifting the time university throughout the district is going to do it. My question would be, would it be revenue neutral to shift to stagger the start time, regardless of whether kids go to school, I mean, assuming they go to school at all, and it's not all e-learning. Would it be possible to stagger the start time, 7:45 to 2:15, or 8 o'clock to 2:30, and give the principals the discretion to staff that on a volunteer basis, according to teachers that don't have early childcare issues? And if there's not enough in one bucket to offer benefit payouts to fill out those positions, so that we still have a 7.5 hour work day, but we are decentralizing the decision making and empowering principals to make the best decisions for them. Does that make sense?
It does. I don't think it's possible to do that, because in essence, you have two start and end times within a school. And you basically be customizing that to whatever time the parent or the bus brought the child to school. I don't know a good way to do that in school and set it up and operate the school where you started part of the school at one time and ended part of it at another time. That basically would mean all the bus riders came from this time to this time, all the car riders came from this time to this time, and the teacher assignment broke itself out evenly to accommodate all those without overloading some classes and underloading others. I just don't think that's a practical, workable solution. I do need to, I think, be real clear about something. We're not asking a teacher to work in a day that's any longer than they work now. We're simply changing the time it starts and the time it ends. Their workday remains the same.
I understand that, but that doesn't address them.
It is a difficult issue. It is an inconvenience What is also true, though, is it's not an issue that can be effectively put off other than put it off for an entire year. Because people need time to make their arrangements before next school year starts. And in the scenario, any of the scenarios up there where every student is in school, we will continue to have this problem that only an increased amount of time between tier 1 elementary and tier 2 secondary routes will fix. If there were a way to do this and inconvenience no one, we would have brought it to you. It is unfortunate there is no way to do that. So you have in front of you a decision to make to continue to allow 1,800, 2,300 high school students to be late. And when the traffic resumes, there is every reason for us to believe that number will continue to increase over time. In a time when students have already missed an excessive amount of school. Or you can start elementary early, or you can move middle and high school 15 minutes later. I would argue to you that to do nothing is wrong. To do nothing hurts our students. And if there were a way to do this without having somebody have to go to work 15 minutes sooner, or leave home 15 minutes earlier, we would surely have brought it to you. As I indicated, a considerable amount of time was spent looking at this, developing the solution. And it all goes back to what an outside entity came in here and told us 10 years ago. Oh, you don't have enough time between the two routes. You fix it, that fix lasted for several years. It has got to be fixed again, or we will continue to have 1,800, 2,200, 2,300 or more students late at middle school and high school missing class time. I want to ask teachers to do more. Well, I don't want to ask them to do another 15 minutes of bus duty in the morning without any compensation, in addition to the routine bus duty they currently have. But the recommendations we bring to you are first driven by the needs of students, second by the needs of adults. And unfortunately, sometimes those two priorities come into conflict with one another. When they do, the recommendation we're going to bring you is the one we believe has the most positive impact to students, least negative impact to students, and even if they're contradictory terms, sometimes the least negative impact for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. One quick comment. Yes. Have we seen any uptick in bus driver applications in the last 2 months?
We've held 3 classes since we shut schools down. We've had 7 total over those 3 classes.
Is that pretty standard?
That's very low. We usually have 7 to 10, if not in the teens for every class.
Are you doing immersion?
We're doing it virtually, we're doing it in person, we're doing it just about any way we can do it. We're still maintaining social distance behind the wheel. We just have not had a lot of interest.
All right, thank you. Mr. Slater.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to ask everybody to bear with me. I'm working on some notes here that I've been dabbling on for 2 or 3 days. First of all, going back to Adam, your comment just now about low participation in applicants, would it not be a reasonable assumption to believe that one of the reasons we don't have a lot of people applying for jobs like bus driver is because right now they can actually sit at home and get unemployment through the current system and make more money? Yes, sir. Because I've got friends that own businesses that are struggling to get workers because
One's a restaurant, and he's opening up tonight. And he's had to restaff his entire operation because the people he sent home literally have told him, I'm making more money sitting at the house than I can make with you. Okay. You know, this is a conversation, this is a decision that we can't wait any longer. We can't wait another year, we can't wait another month. Principals, the administration, they deserve a decision so they can plan accordingly. And I guess what I find the most frustrating about all of this is the way people are receiving their information. What I mean by that is this board has the luxury of making decisions and having conversations with a lot of information, a lot of critical data that members of the public may not always have access to. And that is just an unfortunate situation. We can share what we feel is appropriate. Sometimes we share too much, sometimes we share not enough. But at the end of the day, we have to make a decision based on the information that's given to this body. And we have to own it. I'll give one example that really has come back to make that very true to me is when the legislature came up several weeks ago, a couple of months ago now, and asked about raising teacher salaries. Now, how many of us remember when the Great Recession in 2008, 9, 10 came through and a lot of districts in this state furloughed teachers? Well, we were in a position that we did not furlough folks, but there were districts in this state, neighboring school districts, that furloughed a lot of teachers over a period of time because they could not afford to keep. The legislature says if we freeze the salaries, that will be helpful. That's a logical option. That is a piece of information that the public is unaware of in a lot of cases. So we need to be mindful that we need to make the decisions based on not only fact, the more data is good. But at some point in time, we've got to have faith in the administration. We've also got to make sure that we do what's best for the children on the bus. I'll give you an example. I asked for that information and it was a very short time, and I apologize to the staff for throwing it together. But the information that Mr. Meek mentioned, I started looking at the emails that we received through the new process for public input since they can't stand behind the podium. Well, the individuals offer their comments. Their addresses are included. I started looking at the addresses. Roughly 24 were received. 24. 2/3 of those were against start time. Most of those were, I would say out of that number, maybe 2/3 were around the start time. 2 or 3 were in favor. The balance, probably 15, 14, were comments against, sharing concerns, and they were all very legitimate points. Of those folks that participated and submitted that information, roughly 50% were from the Golden Strip. The balance of those were split between my side of town, the east side, and what I would call the city of Greenville. Nobody from the west side, nobody from Maria, Blue Ridge, nobody from the southern side. That's where those comments came from. Now, when you're sitting at home and you're bored, and you pull up the real property tax information, you can see exactly how much the houses are worth in those neighborhoods where those people sent their information from. And they were mostly middle income to upper level income households. Okay, great. The kids that ride the bus are from low income communities. We've got 1,800 kids in that neighborhood consistently late. Whether they arrive at the GO fence 5 minutes after they're supposed to be there or 15, by the time they get off the bus, by the time they collect their stuff, by the time they eat breakfast, because it's 9 times out of 10 the first meal they get for the day. They are late to school or to class. Whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, it doesn't matter. They are late for instruction. Now, 2 of the schools that are on the list that are predominantly problematic are Eastside and Wade Hampton. Those are in my community. Those children do not live in my community, but they ride the bus, and I'm going to speak for them. The principals tell me that their concerns in those schools are those children arriving late. Now, these are 2 of the state's high-flying high schools, and we still have significant numbers of students arriving late. Folks, we can't allow that to happen. Now, is this an inconvenience? Absolutely. It was an inconvenience 10 years ago when we asked the middle schools and the high school students to do the same thing. And it worked itself out. I got an email from a young lady that's a teacher at Sarah College, and it was a very articulate message. She has a child today. She has a job at Sarah College, and her concerns were twofold: getting my child to bed on time and being able to get to Sarah College to meet my morning duties. The question was, why can't we do the pilot program in other places? Because that email came right after we had our community hall meeting. And when I explained to her that the pilot replicated countywide would have a significant price tag, and she acknowledged that that was something she was not aware of. But I asked her, I said, have you talked to your principal at Sarah College to see if your principal is willing to work with you on your morning schedule, your morning responsibilities? The answer was no. They have not done that yet. I'm hoping that they've done that. And in those cases, there are options. Now, Mr. Lewis has got a perfectly good concern about childcare. I totally agree with that. But if 50% of the childcare providers in Greenville County are out of business, 15 minutes is not going to make any difference in filling that need. Whether they drop their kid off at 7, 7:15, 7:30, 8 o'clock. If the doors are closed, the doors are closed. And that is something that is totally outside of our ability to correct or address. If we could raise taxes and open child care facilities to help our teachers, I wouldn't have a problem with it. Because it would meet a need for our employees. We can't, because we don't have the funding for it. And when it comes to sitting here and making decisions based on less than complete information, is it frustrating? Absolutely. I share that with everybody in this room. But at some point in time, we've got to make a decision to move forward and believe that it is going to work. And if it doesn't work, we've got a plan to back up several options. But again, we've got kids in these buses that cannot afford to get to school on time. They have nobody at home to drive them. These are the communities that we're sending meals to over the summer. These are the communities that we've sent buses to so they would have internet access while they're in school this year, or remotely this year. Is it going to inconvenience the parents that need to drive their kids to school? Yes, and for that I humbly apologize. But in this particular case, there's an old Vulcan proverb: the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And right now, the needs of the many are the kids on the bus. Okay. I'm through. Thank you.
Dr. Paul. I think that, gosh, we're all struggling so much with this, and really for the same reasons. What is the best way to solve a problem that must be solved? And is there another way? Given the totally unusual, unpredictable circumstances. But I want to say that my concern is for the bus riders as well, but equally for the morning bus riders. And for years, I came into this boardroom and complained about the fact that sometimes our kids might be riding on the bus an hour and a half each way or more. And then I actually multiplied that number out by week, by month, and by number of days, school year, and posed the question to all the people here and to the audience, how many of you would be willing to put your child in a position to waste a month or two of their time riding around? You know, I don't remember what the math came out to be, but it was dramatic and sad. And we've made a few positive improvements since then. But the thing that was most distressing to me, getting the information back, and I asked the question, how many kids would start their day by getting on the bus before 6 o'clock or 6:30. Yeah, I asked how many would get on are currently picked up at 6:15 or earlier. And the answer that I got back would be that 47% of the students would get on the bus 11 to 15 minutes earlier. 26% would get on the bus 6 to 10 minutes earlier, and 27% 35 minutes. We're unable to calculate more precisely the impact on students currently picked up at 6:15 or earlier without analysis of each run and each stop. All routes are adjusted each year, which affects this data. The earliest stop time, which is currently 5:50, could be moved back as early as 5:35. Well, those are the ones that their time is just as valuable as kids who are arriving late in middle and high school. They're the same kids, the same high poverty kids in primary level that are receiving the greatest squeeze by having to get on the bus 15 minutes earlier when their days can start so much earlier than most children's days have to start. So they're getting penalized, and if we really are concerned about the bus drivers, we need to be concerned about this move and how it will affect them. So if you came forward and said, it'll cost $1.8 million to provide teaching time to these students who by no fault of their own are having to come to school early. And I want to ask the question, not forget about it, Dr. Bush, about the 45 minutes you said they were already wasting, and then it would be another 15. I want to ask you where and to what you refer those numbers. But just back to the bus riding time wasting. If you have a lot of little kids riding that early to make it to school, there's no question they're not arriving there at their best. They're not arriving there, they're tired because they've gotten up so early to get on the bus. And then we're going to, on top of that, waste their time when they get to that building. That's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Because thankfully, we found a way to get internet on the bus, so I stopped fussing as much about it. That's brilliant. But these little ones are just sleeping, and they're being forced to get up in the dark and get on the bus and then get to school and then wait again for maybe an hour for somebody to teach them something. That can't happen. This group can't sit here and say, we can't find $1.8 million somewhere to make it so that teachers are available to help our most vulnerable bus riding students so we get there early. And also help address this slide that they have experienced, because those are the same ones who are probably not having all they need to get the online help and support, the ones that are getting the meals, the same ones that we're talking about. They deserve and need that extra help because A, they're already behind. Maybe 1 or 2 grade levels behind. These are the very ones we're worried about with reading instruction. And not to say they all ride the bus, but 60-some% do. And so what can we do to address the administration's legitimate, real, critical concerns that middle and high school students are missing instruction time, but without putting the burden on the little ones to miss that instruction time, have to get up earlier than any other families have to get up in order to get to school time, and then sit there and wait because there's nobody there to teach them. We're just gonna have somebody doing a duty. You know, I thought the pilot was meant to show that extra instructional time could move students ahead of their academic positions. And I don't think we have maybe enough time yet to find data that I think we would find to be there. But if you're saying we could solve all these problems with $1.8 million and still let the people who can drive to school and don't necessarily have the child care arrangements they need in the middle of all kinds of crises that they're going to facing that we talk about all day long. I would be willing to do that. And oops, sorry, sorry, guys. Thank you much. Don't touch you. Anyway, I just wish that we could come up with $1.8 million and solve this problem by letting everybody get extra urgent instructional time that they've lost one way or the other, if not this year during COVID, just by virtue of living in poverty. Why can't we give them extra 15 minutes of instructional time? Why haven't we done that before? Bring up our reading scores and help them catch up. But certainly it's not fair to ask them to get up and leave home at 5:30 and then get to school and have to wait around until everybody else gets there and they're already exhausted. So I hear that we all care. I know we do. But why can't we step up and find a way to provide the funding for it this year? Again, I know how we're all feeling about the budget. We've been just very stressed about it. But I'd rather do that than to pass this without consideration for those early bus drivers and what happens to them when they have to get on the bus at 5:35. And then what? It just doesn't make sense to me to keep moving it earlier without an instructional promise of something for their effort when they get to school. And I think I heard during the presentation, which does seem such a long time ago, that there were lots of positive things that were happening for those students who got to school earlier in the pilot. And we just didn't have it long enough to find out what the results are. So we could continue in that vein for another year, see what the results are, and see if it's worth expanding the 1.8 to all of them based on actual data. We can do that too. But I say that to say that none of us is okay sitting with the notion that all these kids are and using instructional time. That's just wrong. But it's just wrong to penalize the early bus riders in exchange for those are the little bitty ones. And we've got, if if we don't get them off to a great start, they're not gonna be successful for the rest of their time. So I just feel like they're the least likely to receive a penalty as the jury talking about.
What we propose does not have to wait an hour before school starts. That's the whole reason to move the start time by 15 minutes. And we arrive at school in that 45-minute window like they do now. I believe in all the information that we sent to you. It shows exactly how many would have to get on the bus 5 minutes early, 10 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier. It's all in the packet of information. I'm not sure what you're reading from.
I'm reading from the email response back to me, that it was percentage, 27% and 26%. I don't know what those numbers.
You stated what you wished. What I wished is that we could bring forward a proposal that everybody unanimously agreed with. I don't think it's possible. We are on the edge of what may likely be the greatest drop in state and local revenue this school district has ever faced in a short period of time. It is not the time to add $1.8 million, no matter where we get that money. It is not the time to do that. It is not the time to place that burden on the businesses or on the owners of cars, boats, motorcycles, or trucks. I do not believe it is the time to do that.
I don't think.
There are two ways to fix this. All these spot fixes, they don't help, because at the end of the day, all of the secondary buses are affected because there is simply not enough time between the routes. There are two very simple solutions. Move middle and high school another 15 minutes this way. Move elementary school 15 minutes this way. Two simple solutions. They cost nothing. We believe, because having already moved this one this direction, because of the things high school and middle school students are engaged in after school, which may cause them to get back at 11, 11:30 or midnight in the week, that at this point it's better to move this group 15 minutes this way. Somebody in the future, unless something changes dramatically, will have to come do this in 5 or 6 years. Unless something changes dramatically. Either the road infrastructure in Greenville County, or how we organize or have transportation access to both. Within our ability to do so, we have made, James and his staff and those before him, made our transportation as efficient as it can possibly be. The state has put forth great effort and financial resources to replace buses, where the mechanical breakdown is no longer the number one reason for a bus being run. Driver shortage is not necessarily the number one reason. The number one reason in Greenville is traffic congestion. The pilot was never intended for students. It was so the students would be gainfully engaged in something academic, because we were bringing them to school 15 minutes earlier on those selected routes. That wasn't the intent of the program, to create a remediation program, and in essence, force it on elementary students, whether they had need for that remediation or not. Some of them do need, but just because 69% of them are free and reduced meal status, doesn't mean that all the bus riders on the bus, or even 69% of the bus riders, need remediation. And while the principals, I'm sure, did the best job they could do, that was a limited resource. That was, I believe, Mr. McCoy, one teacher for 30 students. One teacher for 30 students. That's what it costs to replicate it at $1.8 billion. That is not the level for providing intense remediation. It is more than simply supervising them, but it is not this idea that they're getting some intense remediation or some great enhancement to their academic life during the regular school day by being there that early. Wasn't the intent of it. We don't need any longer. We spent a year and 3/4 looking at that. We know that it does what we intended for it to do, that it shows that we need 15 minutes, not 10, not 20, not 25, that we need 15 to take care of our problems in the immediate and for the foreseeable future. We have brought to you what we believe is the best solution for this problem. There are, I believe, 3 choices before you. Change the elementary time, change the secondary time, or don't address it. And I believe not addressing it is absolutely wrong. I believe that the 2 choices, it should be evident that we believe, the administration believes, is one is superior to the other. I believe ultimately you'll have to do both. Thank you.
Okay, so let me just remind everyone, this was a recommended motion from the committee of the whole. It requires a second to extend the window of time available to run secondary bus routes by shifting the start time of elementary school in Greenville County from 8 to 7:45 a.m. and also from 2:30 to 2:50 beginning in August of 2020. Mr. Loomis.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to read, to extend the window of time available to run secondary bus routes by directing the administration to open elementary school buildings earlier to accommodate early arrivals as necessary. I'd like to speak to the motion.
Can you repeat that?
To extend the window of time available to run secondary bus routes by directing the administration to open elementary school buildings earlier to accommodate early arrivals as necessary.
Right? Okay, Mr. Lewis.
But I think that we have spent 8 hours in March, now was an hour and 45 minutes here. I think the thing that I have heard from all of my colleagues, even those who disagree with me, is that we all agree that we need to separate the arrival of the elementary school kids on my bus and the arrival of the middle school and high school kids at more time between the two. I think there's no question about that. I think what this motion will do is allow the administration to open those elementary school buildings earlier as it needs. So some of our schools will only need to open up 15 minutes earlier to accommodate a few buses. Some may need to open up less than that. But by giving the flexibility to the administration to do this as necessary, it also gives the administration the flexibility to work with schools to design a plan that will work most suitable for them. I do not believe there's a fiscal impact to this plan, because exactly what the superintendent said, so that we regularly trade one duty for another. By opening our schools 15 minutes earlier, whether it's just for bus riders, or whether it's for bus riders and car riders, so it's the administration, then the school can decide how many staff they need to accommodate that need and trade out those early duties for late duties that would not be necessary, which already happens in our schools every day. I believe that this motion accommodates the concerns of the families who don't believe they need to come early. 27,000 families who are car riders, 24,521 car riders who don't have to come early to get our buses earlier to middle schools. I believe it also addresses the fact that of the students who ride buses, 7,815 of them, 53% of those kids would only be riding a bus 10 minutes earlier than the current plan. So we're talking about 47% of 7,815 kids coming earlier and not having necessarily 24,000 cars. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'm a little confused with that's in period there. I don't believe the administration needs that motion. I believe they can do that now without that motion before. It's not demanding that they do it. It's just a thing to extend the window. And I think they can do that without a motion to look forward. Dr. Roser.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
I'm not sure Mr. Rose, what she does. If it doesn't, it just allows them to do that. But it doesn't give them any money. You're gonna pay somebody to be there and, you know, I mean, bus drivers could drop them off, if nobody's there, that would be very feasible. I don't know when I was growing up, that legislators have to open the door for others, but wasn't necessary. So I'm not, and it doesn't address the time that the buses were meant to be there. You know, that's all the schools are doing to deliver the students to the middle and high school to get them on time. So maybe I'm missing something, as I said, confused, I need more information on what this would do in the emergency main motions on the floor. Madam Chair.
Dr. Morrison.
As I understand it, I answered Mr. Lee's question. He's correct. We have buses drop off at the time we wish to have them drop off. At some point, it will be all the buses. They'll all be dropping off at that point to make the system work at some point. Might not start off that way, but at some point they'll all be. So then we're going to add another 15-minute view to the teacher's overall total amount of view, how much they have to do now. That varies from school to school based on how it's set up. For which they won't be compensated, it's just an additional view. In fact, when they duty on somebody, it's harder to find. Is that consequential? Don't know. But don't like the idea of requiring yet another view in a year when we're not going to get any more compensation like it. Same time, right back to those students and parents who have police control. Their child will be sitting at that school an hour before school starts. All of the elementary bus riders. At some point, might not be by the end of the first year, but at some point they'll all be there an hour early, because that's what it's going to take to get all the secondary students there on time. So it's the same thing as making them all come and have a teacher there with them at 31. We're just going to have a teacher there that will not compensate, who will simply be providing supervision. And all those bus students will have, to Dr. Paul O'Connor's earlier point, another 45 hours involved in being transported to school over their school year. Because that 15 minutes every day, I think that translates into 45 hours over 36 weeks. So, I mean, if that's what the student's body, obviously that's what we'll do. That's what it's going to have to take to get students to school on time. That to me is not the preferred choice. But again, start and end times for school are a matter of policy, right? That's all we're going to do with that. Thank you.
Could I ask for Mr. Lewis? I'll address the chair and you can ask Mr. Lewis. I think that what I understand this to mean is that it would take care of the vast majority of elementary parents, including teachers who are parents, who are really struggling to be able to get their students, or to express that it would be a real struggle for them to get their students there 15 minutes earlier, but only affect some percentage of the bus riders. If your motion were to pass. I think that's what you're saying. The number, would you repeat the numbers you said of
those who would then be able to go on as usual versus those who were affected instead of all being affected. I think. I just didn't realize the numbers that he said, and that was important to me.
You, basically, what I'm hearing, Dr. Moisture, and correct me if I'm wrong. This would be all of the elementary school buses going to those schools, dropping their kids off at 7, and just having someone there, and the regular school day starting at 8 instead of 7:45.
That's my understanding of this motion.
Is that correct?
It would be the number of buses that are causing that 1,800 to 2,300 to be late every day. Do you have any idea, Mr. James, based on this year's routes, how many buses that would be and how many schools that would be?
Well, the way I understand it, again, it's a school, it's a district-wide thing. There's one bus in every school. That's going to affect all the schools locally.
So there would be no school at which they have to provide supervision. Initially, it might be for one bus. Then over time, it might be 2, or it might be 3, or it might be all their buses. And the other thing that I don't think we always fully think about or recognize, the district's rerouted every year. Every summer it's rerouted. So those that are late this coming year could likely be those same ones and others, or different ones. Not only is the district rerouted at the beginning of the year, it is constantly rerouted during the year as riders drop off or come home to the bus. So whatever number we might start with, at some point, we would be at 100%.
So basically what Mr. Lewis is saying is that all the buses will drop off those children at 7 o'clock, and someone at each elementary school would oversee all those children. And everybody else can drop their kids off at 7:45 and start the school at 8. So then you have those kids that have been there since 7 o'clock, or that have been waiting out there, like you said, that will be waiting again until 8. That's what his amendment is.
So may I ask that question again, though, is what number of families would be affected by his motion on bus riders and non-bus riders? That's what I was trying to hear.
All that I can provide you with this number.
All right.
Mr. Lewis, from the presentation that was given to the board of cap, there are 24,521 car riders. There are 7,815 morning bus riders. And of those 7,815 morning bus riders, the district changes their routes based on their recommendation. 47% of those 7,815 would have an 11 or 15 minute earlier start.
Okay, so if you had, if you had, is that where you, earlier Dr. Lister was referring to the fact that instead of waiting 45 minutes, then it would be extended by 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, depending on which school or which circumstance.
If you don't move the start time, whatever bus students arrive there early, you add X number of minutes to their day. You have them all get there at 7, it adds 15 more minutes to every bus rider's day. Mr. Lewis's number based on that 47%, based on the study period of 2 months we provide. That number will change in the coming year. It's not probably going to go down. It might initially retract it as extended as it has been. Over time, that number will move from 47% to 100% over time. And in that intervening time, we're balancing the fix for this problem on students provided the bus.
Okay.
End of the day, that's the decision.
I do recognize that the way you pose it sounds very black and white, but the way I hear the information doesn't feel so black and white. That's what maybe was so hard about it, because I know we all want to work through solving it, but when you say that these are the only two choices, I'm hearing, hey, in this particularly uncertain time, when everything's going to look a little different, we don't know how it's going to look, we don't know how many kids are going to be coming and when and how, and whether we might need to change schedules. I really believe there might be an opportunity, if we do end up changing schedules, to make this less problematic, at least for a short time.
I don't foresee any environment where the coming year is going to be less problematic. Sorry.
Mr. Sayers.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realize this was, but, I appreciate the fact that we're trying to come up with some creative solution. And shortly following the county, easy for me to say, I was more open to options then than I am now, I'll be honest with you. But as some of you have said tonight, a lot of things have changed since from the county presentation to tonight. A lot more uncertainty, which we have no control over. But this again, going back to my earlier commentary, puts the burden on bus drivers and no burden on car riders. Yes, it is an inconvenience, but the car riders have the option to be a little more flexible than bus drivers. But I don't see this as an option that would be, quite frankly, received very well before the public opinion. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
All right, I have not. So when we look at this long-term prognosis, it's based on the assumption that we're not going to get any more buses, so we're not going to get more drivers. Right? I mean, that's kind of, so over time, we have gotten, you said at the beginning that we had gotten some help from the state with getting more buses in the recent past and getting more money for bus driver salaries, but it just hasn't been enough. Is that done?
We'll make sure we put all that in clear context. We're now getting, I believe, so but this is going to be close, if not dead on accurate, $7.50 an hour from the state our bus driver. You don't have anybody on our payroll like $7.50. Couldn't hire anybody at that wage. Certainly not a bus driver. Paying them twice that or more. Of course, the state provides and operates buses. We have gotten additional buses. The additional buses we got were buses they removed from service from other districts because they're not so caught up on their replacement that they're buying new buses for growth. So in growing districts, whether that's us or Horry or Fort Mill, you qualify for a new bus, and every time we reach their criteria to qualify, we ask for one. We get one that's taken out of service in a place where the population is gone back. So it's an older bus. Or we get one that rotated out of service because of all that. So our experience with that, while that's good, better than not having anything. Part of the calculations that we gave to you, this time becomes 100% fixed when we're 100% staff. That brings it to single digits with the staff we have now. But it requires 100% staff to get it to 100% on time. 100%.
So I guess just thinking about, there aren't any options. If you had asked me 5 years ago if I thought the state would ever have a situation where the state would have given the kind of raises we got for teachers last year, I would have said, no way, it would never happen. But there are opportunities to move the state to support things in a different way, so that perhaps we might not always be in this situation of being short on the number of buses that we need. Similarly, we got 41 hazardous routes buses that we run routes that aren't technically.
We run a
recognized
significant number of hazard routes that we run in our own schools. Yes.
And those routes that are running, if you weren't running those routes with those buses, would that alleviate some of the late? Are there enough of those buses? Just kind of bear with me for a minute. We didn't do the hazardous route buses. Those are the ones that are within that distance of 1.5 miles that we just deemed that some cases kids can walk. We didn't do those. We had those buses. Could that number of buses significantly impact these situations we have late?
It's certainly possible to do that, but I think, and I know you're just simply brainstorming what you're thinking about. I would view that as compromising safety to alleviate inconvenience.
Well, I'm thinking more about, I don't know what that number is, but if I remember correctly, when we talked about that, the number of children that are in that don't require a full bus, but they're adding time to that route. So
yes.
In thinking about what sort of, if we have to go get leeway, we talked in one of our other meetings about that we need to ask the State Department to give us leeway in being able to run 14 passenger buses, something else. As we move and this becomes more of an issue, are there other ways to solve the problem? And again, if shifting the time later for high schoolers becomes something you think we're going to need to do ultimately, I can take that and stomach that a lot better than making the little bitties come sooner in the dark. So yeah, I'm just trying to. I hear what you're saying, that this is a problem that's going to potentially get worse, but I think there are other things on the horizon that might offer other solutions that we don't seem to have right now. So yeah, that's the part.
This is an immediate problem. It's been a problem. It will be a problem for the foreseeable future. While it's nice to think about those things, I just don't believe they're practical in today's environment. I just think there's too much we don't know about the depth of where we're going to go.
Yeah. Mr. Sayers?
No.
Okay.
No.
Mr. Nick? I'm sorry.
You have ignored me for 45 minutes. I don't understand why.
Mr. Sayers?
But I'll get over it.
No, I'm sorry. Mr. Sonnet, I'm sorry. I knew there was a Mr. S somewhere I had to call him. Mr. Sonnet, my apologies.
I just want you to understand the fact. We looked at the presentation document.
Can you turn your
Instructional execution for secondary bus riders. All that's still good, that information's still good.
Yes, sir.
All right, if I understand that, we've got two choices. We can start the elementary school 15 minutes earlier, and they'll get out 15 minutes earlier.
Yes, sir.
So that would be good for them, then that they would get out of school earlier. What would be bad for them, is that they start shooting 15 minutes earlier.
Yes, sir.
If we go to the high school and middle school, we do it for 15 minutes later, 15 minutes later, both of them.
Yes, sir.
Either one of those will solve our problem. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
If I look at what we have said, we have certainly said that if we shift the elementary hours by 15 minutes, that instead of being 8 o'clock a.m. to 2:30, then that would be dropped off to 7:15. If I understand what was said here, if they shift the bus drop off to 7 a.m., start time to 7:45, and dismiss at 2:15, then we can increase the window for secondary routes without extending elementary teacher workday. In other words, this is a budget neutral solution.
Yes, sir.
So that doesn't involve the 1.8 million.
Yes, sir.
All right, so if we decide to do that, then that's what will take place. If I were looking through these particular things that we had talked about and had discussed, we had seen here that we have got, we talked about the 158 licensed child care providers. And we have talked about the dismantling of a large percentage of those in that regard.
I don't think anybody knows the full impact of this economic downturn on the providers. The number of them that are shutting down. It could be a even greater impact.
If we change the elementary, what do the teachers, the principals, and the parents feel about that, in your opinion?
There are teachers and parents who don't like it. There are parents who don't like it because they have to get the child there 15 minutes sooner. There are teachers who don't want to come to work 15 minutes earlier because they have other priorities in their life related perhaps to their own children. I think you hear from those people. There are people that bother them to come 15 minutes earlier. They're morning people. They don't have those responsibilities in the morning. They might have some in the afternoon. Having to get children certain places or take care of them.
If they come 15 minutes earlier, they get out 15 minutes earlier.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And the people we don't hear from, we haven't heard from the teacher who has the children who come to their class habitually late first thing in the morning. I don't think you're generally going to hear from them. It's just not, that's not the nature of the thing. When you change something that is an inconvenience to people, I think you tend to hear from them. And it is an inconvenience to people.
The reasons we give to the middle school and the high school, we say the reason for that is quite specific.
But we've already moved them 15 minutes later, which we did about 10 years ago.
All right.
And when you think about, particularly within the high school, and to a degree in the middle school, we have students involved in athletics. They travel to away contests during the week, puts them 15 minutes later leaving, obviously 15 minutes later getting back. And then I get home for 11, 11:30, midnight, makes it 15 minutes later. Same with students in band, or chorus, or ROTC. We also have, and I think you heard a couple of high school principals speak more eloquently about this than I have, the number of students they have that go to jobs in the afternoon. While we might not think that 15 minutes is important, the wage they get for that 15 minutes is important to them. For some of them, it's not just about getting experience working or about spending money, it's about helping their family. Middle school level, when you have students involved in after school activities, there is a lesser impact to later time middle school than there is to high school. Lesser negative impact.
That doesn't appear to be that big of a problem for high school. Because they don't go to bed around 12 o'clock anyway.
Simply makes that 15 minutes
And they're
later.
out running around overnight anyway. But the elementary school students.
And I would argue there are a lot of elementary school children that are up early too. They're not all sleeping either. But those are Those are the choices before you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Meek.
I know y'all wondering how I feel about this. I'll try to be very clear. I think the amendment puts this burden right back onto the backs of those children that all of us should be looking at. I think most of them are trying to do that. We're looking at the neighborhoods that I mentioned before, that Berea, Huntsbridge Road, Lakeside Drive, Trailer Park, or those apartments, Lakeside Apartments, Overlook Apartments. These are all on Berea. These are the very ones that seem like, yeah, it's okay if they come 15 minutes early. Well, I can drive up 5 minutes before start time and drop my kids off. It's still okay, but it's another hour or whatever. Those kids have to spend there and sit there. It's okay for them, but not for parents to get up 15 minutes early. Carolina High School, you got road station apartments. Parents are out of townhouses with Wakefield Street. East side had Carolina apartments, Howell Common apartments, Morphew apartments, Lakecrest apartments. You know, as I said earlier, there's a pattern that we are putting the burden on those kids who are already stressed beyond limits on just trying to get by. But yeah, it's okay if we put disinfection there. Well, I can keep living my kids, as I said, 5 minutes before school starts. And that's okay. It's okay. I can rush in with that football 5 minutes before we rush in there. But you can't on the bus. You can't do that. You have to come and sit there. We need those kids. Middle high school, we need to get them on time. Our superintendent, who has worked diligently the past year and a half or whatever, to bring us a solution, that's probably us one. So, yeah, we can vote it down or vote it up. But the problem is still going to be there. He is wrong. What I think is solution may not be the most perfect solution. And I think if they discussed on child care and some of the teachers, that's going to be a problem when we come out of this situation that we're in. It's going to be a problem whether we pass this motion or make it or not. But you got all these children who are that need it the most. They need to be home also. They need not to sit there at school for an hour while everybody else is traveling up. You have to think about their feelings also, and how this is going to affect them overall. Because it's almost like it's a big separation all over again. The ones that have the least are the ones who have to get out to us. They're going to have to suffer the most. And I, for one, could never vote to put a bigger burden on the class of students that we're here to try to see that they get a better education, to advantage to make a bigger city home. You know, whether it's breakfast or whatever it is. So I would encourage you not to vote for this amendment and to pass the motion as is. Thank you.
I'm going to speak on this, all my years on this board. The board members have always said that we have to put those that are less fortunate and that need the most at the forefront. These are the students, and I speak because Eastside, Wade Hampton, those are over my area. Korea, belong to those schools. I've been to just about every school in this district, every high school. I've listened to students who go to school and they have to go home, and whatever time they go home, and they think they're walking the streets and stuff, and maybe some of them are, but some of them are working late, and then they catch that bus after just having 4 or 5 hours of sleep, maybe 4 or 5, so they can be at school the next morning. We've already extended them. We keep extending, they're not gonna be able to get those jobs in the afternoons. Sports will be tough, they won't get home till late. I have dropped friends' kids off at downtown elementary schools. And I've gotten there where it's been 7:30, 7:45, the doors don't open, and there's a line where parents want to drop their kids off. I've also gotten there where it's 10 till, or 5 till, or a minute till, and there's a line behind me because there are parents who are late even for 8 o'clock. Parents are gonna be late no matter what. Parents are gonna be early because they get to work. Convenience, important, but who are we being convenient for? Are we selfish? Are we looking for those that are in need, that can't speak for themselves? I'm sorry, I've spoken to a lot of kids, and I've got kids in hotels. It's just heart-wrenching what these bus drivers have to do. Neighbors across the street, they got their children waiting in the bushes, waiting to catch the bus in the morning. I don't understand it. It's not for me to decide what's best for their children. I can't understand why they can't get up and take their kids to school. But they chose to make those kids sit. And the only reason I know is because I'll go take the trash out and I'll see the little flashlight come up. So you know what? Why are we going to have these bus riders? They waited for the bus, and then we're going to want them to wait another hour for school to start. We've exhausted this subject matter. We were 3 or 4 hours committee of the whole, or 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours now. Dr. Cristobal and Donna would like to speak, and I will pass it to her. Would you like to speak?
Thank you. Yes, I agree with so much of what you just said. What doesn't really ring true is that if we're, those same children in the morning that we're talking about are already participating. We're talking about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes. They're waiting. They're wasting time. They're getting up so early. They have so many disadvantages. In my view, we ought to be addressing that. Maybe not in this mode, in this moment, but what you're saying is critically important. We need to do something about the students waiting that long and then wasting time when they get to school. But I'd rather see us look in the direction of high school for this reason only right now. I was there when we had to push it back. None of the people endured that change because it was so long ago. It's a whole new set. I understand the drawbacks to it, but this is the first time I've heard those facts about the daycare today. I wish that I had been more prepared and understood that better. But
And our foresters said, you know, this is going to be a problem regardless of what kind they're trying to start school. I'm really concerned about that. We don't have a daycare issue with high schoolers. So, I mean, maybe that's the reason to switch it. I don't think we should ignore the issue. But I do have one question that somebody here, one or two of you can probably help with. Do we have, with our early dismissal opportunities, do we have bus riders who take advantage of early dismissal? They don't have a ride, right? I mean, unless they have a ride, they can't take advantage of early dismissal. Is that correct?
Most of our grant.
Yes.
So I wonder how many kids are actually affected by a change at the high school level when we've got so many of them leaving campus to do dual enrollment or to do early dismissal or to go into career and technology. Maybe it is worth looking at the numbers that you all have to say what would happen if we made the high schoolers go later. I just am not comfortable with putting all the burden on the elementary bus riders.
I'm gonna call on Mr. Lewis.
When you're ready to vote, I'd like to ask for roll call.
Okay. We're voting on the amendment. Nancy, can you, read the amendment, please? I can't see it. Oh, well, if y'all can see it, that's fine.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, what, Nancy, to read it?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The motion is the amended, most amended is to extend the window of time available to run secondary bus routes by directing the administration to open elementary buildings earlier to accommodate early arrivals as necessary.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Bush?
No.
Mr. Shanley?
Not voting.
Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Ms. Grayson? Yeah. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Meek?
No.
Ms. Morrison Fair?
I will abstain.
Dr. Paul Connor?
I need to pass also.
Mr. Sailors?
No.
Mr. Sutton?
No.
Mrs. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Levenswell?
No.
Ready to go back to you want to be passed?
Could you help us with understanding what the count is right now?
What does that matter?
It matters to me because I don't want this. What happens here is going to determine what happens on the next vote, which is very important as well. So without knowing strategically what it means, it's really tough right now. This sort of thing. Okay, well, yeah, people not saying one vote, people not saying their vote. You don't necessarily have to vote. Yes or no. If you vote yes, we can change our vote.
Right, it's a new vote, but I think that's in order.
Mr. Webb, can you explain what Ms. Bush just said?
I believe the point is emphasizing that regardless of how you vote this time, if there's a subsequent vote, you can change whatever vote, have a different vote at that time.
Okay. So you still want, you want to know?
I just want to know where the vote stands.
Where does the vote stand, Nancy?
As of now, we have 4 yes, 5 no, and 3 yet to vote for testing.
Shift
I don't want to pass
Okay.
it down to-
You can vote yes.
Yes. Point of order. Is there any option at this point? You can't make a motion at all. Okay. So what's the vote count now?
Voted yes. So we have 5 yes, 5 no, 1 pass, 1 abstention.
Yes.
We come back to Mr. Shannon.
I'm gonna change my vote.
I'm sorry, I thought you asked.
Yeah, so it comes back to you now to vote, or vote the same.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, no,
Is it yes or no?
right.
What is it? I'm being serious. It's getting late.
No.
We voted no. Okay, so no. So now what is the
So the result is 5 yes, 6 no, 1 abstention, the amendment.
So it fails. All right, so now,
Adjourn,
yes, sir.
I call the question.
Okay. Nancy.
Roll call.
Yeah.
There needs to be a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's a second. All right, now we have to vote. Roll call.
All right, on the original.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify, this is to call the question, which is a 2/3 vote.
Right. Madam Chairman, can you explain? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to explain it.
So the motion is to call the question to eliminate any further discussion, debate, and if this passes with a 2/3 vote, then there will be a additional vote we'll go straight to another vote on the original motion. Does that make sense?
Okay, Red Nancy, yes.
Mrs. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon? Ms. Gilman Caldwell?
Yes.
Ms. Grayson? Yes. Mr. Lewis? Mr. Meek?
Yes.
Ms. Marson Fair? Second. Dr. Ball Connor? No. Mr. Sailors?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
No.
Mrs. Levinson Wells?
Yes.
Okay, that is 9 yes and 3 no, so that is a more than 2/3. So, the question is lost.
Okay, so now,
You have to announce what the vote was.
I'm sorry.
You have to know whether it passed, say whether it passed or not.
Did it pass? It's 9 to
3.
Okay, so it passes, and now we will go ahead and vote on the motion.
Okay, on the original motion?
The original motion.
Okay, so we're voting on this motion that's up there now.
Yes, yes. All right,
Okay,
Nancy?
Mrs. Bush? Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Goodman Caldwell?
No.
Ms. Grayson? Yes. Mr. Lewis?
Nope.
Mr. Meek?
Yes.
Ms. Marson Fair? No. Dr. Paul O'Connor?
Yes.
Mr. Sailors?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton?
No.
Mrs. Welch?
No.
Ms. Levinson Wells?
Yes.
Dr. Paul O'Connor?
What is the vote, Nancy?
And that's it.
I'm sorry. Never mind. I thought it usually is up, I just can't.
It's usually up when the vote goes.
I'm going to say.
Okay, so that gives us, 6 yes, 5 no, 1 abstain. So the motion passes.
The motion passes. Okay. Now we will go to,
Madam Chairman,
yes,
I'll make a motion to approve the new and renewal scholarships for spring scholarships in the amount specified and this brings the Marine Scholarship Program forward.
Is there a second to the motion? Serene Scholarship, second. Is there a second to the motion? Mrs. Grayson, any discussion? All in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Need to ask you about.
Oh, anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. 4.03, Sexual Education Advisory Committee membership recommendation. The recommended motion from the ad hoc committee to approve the recommended slate to serve on the Sexuality Education Advisory Committee for a 3-year term beginning in June 2020. Coming from the ad hoc, it needs no second. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Just so I understand the process, there are 3 vacancies. One's for clergy and 2 are for students. So can someone,
Is Jeff,
tell me what the process is going to be if it's still?
I will ask Jeff McCoy. Jeff?
Yeah, so the students will be filled as are the seniors from inter high, so we'll work with inter high like we do with the other committees to solicit students who want to serve on that committee. The other one was a clergy vacancy. Is a clergy vacancy due to we didn't have enough people apply. We had 2 apply, or we accepted 2, but the state is 3. So we'll be looking for that applicant again, that 3rd one. Put that back out for applicants to come back in, and then they would interview the applicants who would apply for that.
Okay, so I understand on intermite, you'll send an email out or something to those kids and you get that back. But on clergy, how do you go about canvassing for clergy? What does that process look like?
It would be similar to what we did before with the posting on Facebook, Twitter, newspaper, all that kind of stuff to get the applicants back.
Okay. So it's just kind of public hosting, it's not making any targeted efforts, sending you notifications, searches, or anything like that. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Quick question, Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sanders.
I have full faith and confidence in the ad hoc committee,
Yes, sir.
but is there any way we can have access to the resumes of these individuals in the future? I mean, I have no problem approving this, but some of these folks I don't know have a chance yet, and I'd like to be able to at least, if someone asks, what do you know about them? So just something in the future, personal comment. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I understand it we started out with 88.
How many?
88. The first time ever had that kind of interest, which was mind-boggling, so we didn't know how we were going to interview 88 people. And then we sent out a written questionnaire to ask them about their interests and their background and so on. And that was a really good decision because then it turned out that only 20 cared enough about it to write something about themselves and to respond to the questionnaire. So we had 20 to interview, and we broke up that task between Debbie and Ms. Bell and Debbie Smith and myself. And so one of the odd things about that is that Debbie and I did not meet the same people. So we're a little bit unable to kind of give you the sense of them all because of that, the way the interviews were structured. But then we came back immediately after each interview, discussed the ones we had, and then made a choice for us. So even though we didn't each meet all, we felt from the incredible staff and professional understanding of the 2 people involved in it, that they knew exactly what they were doing, and we got the chance to have very long discussions with each other, and felt like it was a really great process. I was proud that they cared enough, and that we got a lot of incredible people. And the only hard part was that we wanted to say yes to more of them than we could, and we encouraged them to stay involved. So I can't name them all by name, but I can say that we had a large, impressive group of people who care a lot about this community and this topic, and were fair-minded
educated on the topic and just a little bit more. We voted on this.
Not yet.
Not yet, okay. Try and do it before 10 o'clock. All those in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, aye. Hearing none, the motion carries. 4.04, letters regarding disbursement of CARES Act funds and or COVID relief funding. I will turn this over to Mr. Lewis. Mr. Dr. Royster?
Yes, ma'am. So as we discussed in the first budget meeting, we talked with the board about supporting the distribution of federal CARES Act money that is consistent with the manner in which Title I services and or funds have been distributed, i.e. not to every private school in the county, but to those who have participated in the Title I program. This letter reflects that which we asked the board to approve, requesting, supporting State Superintendent Spearman to adopt direction to districts in South Carolina that is inconsistent with the, I want to use the proper term that the Secretary's office uses. They don't direct, they provide guidance. You have seen results in several states where states have rejected their guidance in regard to the disbursement of CARES Act funds. In this letter, we believe is an important message coming from this body to support what we also recommend as an administration, is that we not disperse the difference between 19.2 and $17.4 million in CARES Act funds to private schools in the county, including those that have never participated in Title I program. What you will also see is a second letter. You're probably looking at, they're grouped together, but the second letter is a letter to Senator Alexander, who chairs the Senate Reopened SC Committee, encouraging them to support the recommendations coming out of Accelerate Ed, the committee that Mr. Sailors and Dr. Turner have served as a part of. So those two letters, one to Senator Alexander from Oconee, who's the chair of that committee, and the other to Superintendent Spearman. And the one to Superintendent Spearman, I believe we would also copy that, though it does not show on there, to our congressional delegation, our federal congressional delegation. Again, emphasizing the belief that the intent of those funds, as has been stated by several senators, including most recently, I saw a quote from Lamar Alexander, who served as the chair of Senate Education for a number of years, Republican from Tennessee, who clearly stated that was not the intent of the action of Congress to disperse funds in that way. So we believe that this body taking that strong approach in sending this letter to the superintendent, encouraging her to do what we view as the right thing in the disbursement of those monies. And second letter, encouraging the Senate committee to act upon in a favorable manner the recommendations coming from Accelerate SC. I believe they bolster our chances to receive funding in both those streams, one to help to offset any losses of time experience, and the other to assist us in providing summer camps for students this summer at the state's cost to assist with students who need some additional help because of the impact that they may have felt individually from the time we had to go from in-person instruction to e-learning.
There's a recommended motion to approve the letter regarding disbursement of CARES Act funds and or COVID relief funding as presented. Okay. Okay. Any discussion? Ms. Wells.
So on the letter to Superintendent Spearman, with guidance, we're asking her to appeal the guidance versus asking her to, I respectfully say, ignore the guidance. I mean, the problem is if we're saying appeal, then if you appeal and she says no, it's it, then that puts you in a different spot than if we just say we would like you to not some word other than ignore, but basically ignore and give us different guidance.
Well, you could substitute, if you wish to do so, to not just to appeal that guidance. You could ask board to challenge to follow your own interpretation.
You understand, like, based on the conversation we had, you guys were saying, what's guidance, we don't have to follow that. The State Department doesn't have to.
Can I get some clarity? Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I could, Dr. Rose, one of the problems is both the governor and the attorney general are backing the Washington administration on this issue. And so because of that, superintendent is in a position that even if she challenges, appeals, or whatever, it's not going anywhere. In the case of Maryland, in the case of Indiana, there's two that I'm thinking of off the top of my head. Both Republican administrations are hot for now. The governor, the AG, and the state superintendent, all three in both states that I know of, said to the federal government, in South Carolina, they're not taking that position. And so even if the state superintendent says, I don't feel comfortable with this, then she has no way to stand up. So she put a rock in the hard way.
Yeah.
I think that's also the importance behind copying our congressional delegation. That they may not, as a body, really feel that way. I don't know where it stands right now. One of the provisions in the, I believe they term it HEROES Act, which is the next phase of COVID relief. There's a provision in there that passed the House side. I don't know that it's moved yet to the Senate side. But it obviously should move to the Senate side and pass the House. It included direction as to the Congress's intent for these funds, which were for them to be dispersed in the manner of Congress. So I would hope that that would be passed, and if it is, then it won't matter what the Secretary's interpretation.
Even more so, what I've heard is more like you should be asking her to appeal, asking her to deviate from it. Yeah, so.
Well, and if I may, ask her to follow the CARES Act.
Yeah, to ignore the bill.
Yeah, I mean, to adhere to the law, which to spell it out in the letter.
Right. It's just that first sentence isn't really saying that. It says, can you go back to an asterisk? Which is not what I'm thinking. But I mean, I'm supporting the idea. I just would like that first sentence to be different. Chairman signs, right?
You want to sign it?
Do you guys sign it? Can we pass it? It's kind of the idea that you will rework that first sentence. This way, that yeah.
Unless there's an objection.
Okay.
We'll figure out some.
Okay.
All right, so you're change the sentence with accident.
All right, all those in favor?
Well, I got, can I ask a question on the second one?
Yes.
So, we're saying our summer plan, we have a cost that we come up with to run summer camps that we are thinking we'd like for them to fund.
They have a cost. We told them what we thought based on what it cost us to run some reading. So running it sort of parallel manner. They have discussed this for weeks. If you think from 7 to 10 is a long time, they've gone back and forth, back and forth. They finally got a recommendation based in part for these citizens. So we can hold them responsible. They have 2/25 of the responsibility every we get to run there. They finally took all the information we sent and other districts sent, and they came up with a dollar amount. I think it's 2,500 per student or less.
1766.
1766.
1776.
That is, I'm not sure, maybe you all know the basis for that. We told them 25. I think there were others that told them a similar amount.
Well, what, the original recommendation, Dr. Turner, correct me if I'm mistaken, the original recommendation from Accelerate Ed to Accelerate SC was $115 million for the entire state. When the finance component of Accelerate SC finished their work, there was zero in the budget. Went back to former Senator Ryberg. Molly had some conversations with them and some other folks. They were able to take the balance of the money that had been appropriated at that time on paper and came up with roughly 13 million. 13 million. Okay. So by virtue of the fact that this is, the legislature has now taken ownership of the actual appropriating of the funds, the only thing Accelerate SC can do is make a recommendation. Thus, the need to take this letter to Senator Alexander, because that committee is now in charge of appropriating the funds. Now, what happened yesterday and today is that we have been informed by, 10 school districts are not going to do a summer program. About 16 are going to do something virtually because of the remote nature of a rural district. Everybody else that's like us is going to do a standard program for the request, which is essentially the Read and Succeed camp on steroids. It's going to have more students involved, more locations, mathematical component, that kind of direction. That is going to cost roughly $60 million. So since there are districts that are going to do a different delivery, and some that are not doing it at all, that 15 million is now cut almost in half. And between that and some other conversations, including our pushing this committee, we believe that we can get that funding, that amount for the funding.
60 million or 115?
Another 60. We've got 115 listed there. We want to shoot for the moon and take what we get. That makes sense.
And so then for our district, you said 2,500 per student.
That's not what we're going to get. That's not what they're going to recommend. They're going to recommend 1776.
Well, we can make that work.
I mean,
Yes.
we're spending about 2,500 on reading. But we're gonna run them kind of together.
So we already have money in our budget to run camps.
We have money from the state for reading camp, and we actually had some carryover for reading camp last year. Has to be spent on reading camp, but we're okay.
So we'll be able to fund ours regardless, out of our existing general fund budget.
No, not this extra without this money.
Which is how much for our
1776. We haven't asked them about.
We're thinking we've got about 2,200 kids.
About a little over 2,000. We have a rate of acceptance.
Not yet. We're expecting it to be somewhere between 1,800, 1,500, 1,800.
Depends on whether or not they read that poll in USA Today.
the 3.5 million.
plus the summer reading camp.
That, so 3.5 would like to get from them, if not, that's not our general fund. That's in that fund balance?
No.
We're just gonna do it.
Reading camp has a balance in it for carryover from the previous year, but it has to be spent on reading camp. Can't use it for those purposes back to the general fund. There's a little bit there, and we get another allocation this year for summer reading camp by running the two together. And we're gonna run it, 49, same places we're serving food, 49 to 51 locations. So we figured out a way to do it within the amount of money this year. But we gotta have the other 1776 to do something beside reading.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Anyone else? Okay, all right, we will vote on this. Did we vote? We didn't vote. I need a motion.
You got one. Roger made it, I second.
I have. I said you didn't have it.
Okay, all those in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, aye. The motion carries, and we will move to 4.05, temporary procedure for public input to the budget process. I'm going to ask Mr. Webb if he would speak on this, because I am brain is fine.
Sure, I'll be happy to. So in developing the process for public participation in board meetings, there was also some discussion regarding the budget. So in listening to that discussion and working with Mrs. Levins's Wells, we have crafted a process for your review and hopeful approval, which is consistent with the process that we put in place for board meetings and public participation, but a little different. First, the process would play out in this manner. First, the public would have the ability for about a 3-week window to post comments regarding the budget. So it's a fairly lengthy window of public participation. So while not ideal to be under these circumstances, in many ways it's more accessible to members of the public than having to attend here for an hour period of time. It frees up work commitments and other availability issues. So it's about a 3-week window that would begin as proposed here, May 27th, and would end the day before the public hearing, within June 14th at 6 p.m. So similar to the other process we put in place for public comment, must contain the name of the person, an address, phone number, must be pertaining to the 2021 fiscal year budget, and obviously apply and adhere to policy KCA. The leadership team will then review those submitted comments, make sure they adhere to this policy, or this process, I should say, for policy KCA. And the idea would then be for the public hearing itself, the board would meet at the scheduled time and convene and formally approve and put those comments as part of the record. That is the process that we have developed for your review and approval.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to approve temporary alternative of input in the fiscal year 21 budget process during the current state of emergency as presented.
Second.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, but, okay.
All right, this will be quick. What if McMaster cancels the state of emergency tomorrow and or midway or anytime within the next 2 weeks? What do we do? Do we allow other people that submitted comments to show up? Do we allow them to show up? Or no? What happens?
That's a good question. And one that I've thought about, but I'm not positive what we would do. Perhaps have a have another meeting to determine that path forward, whether we've already received some comments, do we adopt those, but also now open it up to public verbal comment as in the past. But a lot would depend regarding the restrictions being lifted by Governor.
Would it be safer just to say during the end of that Senate budget process?
If the board is comfortable with that, that is certainly not.
I just don't see the need to change this. I mean, based on, who knows what it's happening.
Now, I will say this, that unlike public participation in board meetings, which is not required by law, there is a specific statute that requires a public comment period. And certainly in the past, that has been interpreted to be in-person comments. I think with all things COVID and the situation we're in, given the circumstances, I believe this alternative meets that definition of the statute. But there is an argument, I want to put this out there for you to know that if the state of emergency is lifted, perhaps there's an argument that that statute should allow public verbal.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
if we just put a caveat at the end of the motion that essentially says that the state of emergency is lifted, process reverse previous policy processes, would that be cleaner? In other words, if he lifts it tomorrow, then we go back to Plan A.
Could do that, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What if he lifts it pretty much? Yeah. There were comments about Linda. I guess I like the word alternative. Alternative tells me there are two ways you can do it, one or the other. And I'm assuming that the person that is making the comments would choose which alternative you pursue. Now, they can wrong. That way you can cover presumably both cases. If they submit their comments and writing internet, they're then read into the record as this works. If 30 minutes before the governor rescinds it, and they want to show up, they can show up, or anytime they can show up if the governor rescinds it, which would tell me it will be sort of up to them to choose if we have that option.
Well, and I will say that depending on the timing, it might be difficult to get a hold of those individuals for them to choose. I think we have a lot of what ifs in this world, and including this as well. And I think there's some logic in saying let's put forward the best process we have for us right now. Then if something changes, depending on the timing, then we take appropriate action from there.
You could, I guess the other thing to do is simply put a period after the budget process period. And do that, so that the written comments would apply anytime during the context of the 21 budget process, whether he reopens it or sends it an emergency status or not. That would be fairly straightforward. That would then say, okay, if you want to comment during this period, 21 budget, you need to do it by written comment. That would be, we could explain at some point to why that was the reason we did that. But I think it leaves it a little bit open-ended here if the governor does something kooky. And by kooky, I don't mean stupid, I mean messes up our hearing state, our hearing process. That's just thought.
I think one possibility would be to add some verbiage in here to say that if lifted, then there will also be the public comment period as well, in addition to the written comments.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, as I read this and I'm reading the specifics of the process, once this opens, anyone that makes a comment, their comment is going to be accepted under the process. So If we're a week into it and the governor says, okay, no more state of emergency, it is back to normal, then we would open up public comment. We would revert back to that policy, but that doesn't negate any of these comments that come in, that they've already been registered and locked, because we're getting them, they're being reviewed and then entered onto a spreadsheet and recorded.
I think the board would still have to meet, adopt them, put them as part of the record,
Right,
and then at the same meeting, open it up for verbal.
Right, but it doesn't, it's not like we'll throw them out, it makes them way out of the policy, or the process and the amendment. I think that, I personally think we're covered with what you got.
Okay.
So you feel that we're covered without changing anything? Okay, so the motion, there's been a motion, it's been a second. All those in favor, it's been discussed, all those in favor, please address the same line.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The motion carries. All right. Mr. Barber,
Yes, ma'am.
I know you're excited. Did we break in the right way? I mean, we only have a month before you can retire. Could you count down classes here? All right, 5.01.
There's been times I've been here a little while, man.
Internal auditing project status report. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We are presenting our monthly status report on the internal audit projects that we're currently working on. We have two that are very close to issuing reports. So that's the purchasing cards and credit cards and Berea High School. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Barber? He's been here since early. He's been sitting out there since 6. Yes, Mrs. Reynolds.
So you said you're close on both of those, do you anticipate you're gonna bring those in June?
We're gonna issue them too. I don't know how long. Some of those are very, there's a lot of data in the purchasing and credit cards, so I'm not sure. We'll issue them and then depend upon how long it takes the administration to review.
You don't expect that they'll come to us in June?
I don't believe so.
Mr. Beach.
Mr. Barber, what type of audit did you do for your high school?
That was a request that we received from legal counsel. We basically confirmed that the funds that were received by teachers and staff actually were deposited into the bank.
Yeah. Ms. Wells.
Well, I guess just to clarify, so you're, Ms. Barber, you're here through June 30th?
Pardon
Is
me?
that right? You're here through June 30th? Or what, take your retirement?
Technically, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, my last day would be June 30th.
So I guess just Madam Chairman, just kind of understanding, we'll have 2 audits that will go to administration. Does the board need to come up with some action plan for how we deal with the audits that'll be kind of unfinished, if you will? Mr. Barber is not here.
My staff can present.
It would be the administration's intent as a way to bridge this time when we shift from one setup to another. Bring those forward and share them with the board as if Mr. Barber were each. I think that would be the easiest way to transition.
Okay, so he can bring them in June, even without.
Because they haven't gone to the administration to look at his observations to see what the response to the observation might be. He's just completed his part of the work. Then it goes back to, in this case, we would go back to finance, and they would respond to each of his findings. There might be some clarification they provide. He might look at that. So then I need to alter this finding as well. So that part of the process hasn't happened. I think what Mr. Barber's saying is the actual work he's doing is coming to a conclusion, but not the exit interview with management, which might be a multi-meeting exit interview process. I don't know that those things would come to you until August, even if Mr. Barber were still here. I think it's probably likely they wouldn't come until August.
So I guess it saves money, but I'm wondering if we need to do something, because Mr. Barber is going to report to the board, not the staff.
We will bring that forward and have them here if there are questions they need to answer. Just as a way to kind of transition out of the last audits that he supervised. Then we need to work with how we bring the structure to that new model. One of the first things that we'll do with his current audit staff is have them begin those audits we know we need for them to do so on an annual basis. We'll go ahead and have that started, so there is no gap in their work.
Anyone else? Mr. Barber, thank you so much. We apologize that you had to stay so late.
Oh, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you so we can congratulate you and thank you for all your service and that you held this position from day one. So a creative position, and you have been very loyal and we are very appreciative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
6.01 committee liaison reports. Are there any committee reports? So hearing none, we'll move to 7.01 monthly finance report. Dr. Webster?
Yes, ma'am. In the spirit of the superintendent's report tonight, we don't have a monthly financial report. We all spent several hours today talking about finance. The staff, I think at that point brought you up to speed on the most recent level of state payment that we received this past week. So certainly any question you might have, she's here and can answer that in that presentation.
We have a recommended motion from the administration. Monthly financial statements are being presented as an information. Is there anything there?
No, it's just information.
It's just information, so there is no.
There's nothing unusual of note in there when we brought that to you.
One question, it's probably stable, I don't know for the state, and I have a question.
Ms. Well.
In the building fund, budget, or building fund, we have, our budget was $90 million for major projects, and we spent almost 37 million. Are we behind on, what is all that? And I'm assuming that some of that's down in high school. Are we behind on the payment or the outlay and expenses on that? Why are we so far off? We're almost at the end of the fiscal year, we haven't spent half of that.
You got Fountain Inn, which you already mentioned. You got other ongoing projects that are already funded. They get funded incrementally each year.
That's
Robin will tell you which ones specific.
Summit Drive is in there. But it just has to do with the timing of getting to the stage where the contractors can bill us and getting the checks cut. So I'm not aware that we are behind in any of the projects at this point.
Okay, so the 90 million, even though it says that's our 2019, 2020 budget, you're saying it's not exactly when we plan to spend that 90 million this year. It's just that's kind of what we active construction projects we have allocated.
It goes back, if you think about the strategy we have for funding projects over time to keep village consistent. And so there'd be some perhaps coming out of there being set aside for a future project. So they're highly unlikely you reach a year where the two numbers are.
Anyone else?
Chair,
Yes, Mr.
I'd
Freeman.
like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have.
Announce.
Okay. Make your announcement.
Yes, you received the flyer, from the Upstate Photographers field. They are doing free photos for seniors, so I gave the last year if y'all want, because it's for all of the students in Greenville County. So if you could get that information out, just to seniors, so you know, how to take a senior photo, they are, sponsoring a free photo shoot.
That was really nice, thank you. With that being said, all in favor, please address by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries tonight, and, it is 10:20.